Welcome into the Monday edition, the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. We will be here with you for the next couple of hours, coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, discussing local, regional, and national sports topics, and glad to be doing it with you. So join us for the full ride. Wade, how's your Monday?
Monday is good, Mo. If you pick up a copy of this week's Pulaski Citizen, my fearless forecasters will tell folks Michigan didn't lose, but one team did, and Ohio goes down. So that alone made it a fantastic weekend for me personally, and everything else was just icing on the cake.
That's a straight out of Eugene t-shirt right there, it looks like.
Throwback Nate Bain when he was still the manager with the basketball squad there. And I knew one day all that old Oregon merch he had sent out would come in handy. And man, the biggest Ducks fan on the planet Saturday, hell of a game. And there were a lot of great games as we'll get into, but that was what got me excited. But everything can't stay golden forever, as you well know, because Sunday was a little bit of a disappointment.
Sunday was a little bit of a disappointment. Yeah, we will get into all of the events along those lines here over this next couple of hours. In the second hour, in fact, we will be chatting with John Glennon of the Nashville Post, talking about that little Sunday disappointment as the Titans dropped a tough one to visiting Indianapolis in AFC South action at Nissan Stadium. Again, John Glennon will be helping us kind of dissect that one in the second hour. In the next segment, though, speaking of the good stuff that was going on Saturday, we will be visiting with former Vanderbilt offensive lineman BRUNO REAGAN. The Commodores, man. How about them?
I mean, they're borderline wagon status, and that was a legit topic among 2 or 3 different conversations yesterday in the pregame while we were milling about the press box at Nissan Stadium. Everybody's like, man, what about Vanderbilt? I don't know what to do with Vanderbilt right now. Mm-hmm. They're in kind of uncharted territory for these Commodores.
Yeah. We will talk a little bit more about that uncharted territory that they are in, how they got there, and still the one that kind of got away to some degree. So yeah, we'll be talking to BRUNO REAGAN in the next segment. We'll also be talking a little other SEC and college football, because that was far from the only riveting contest on Saturday. Talking a little college basketball as well. The AP preseason top 25 came out today. We'll take a look at that. Major League Baseball playoffs are going on. WNBA finals are going on. Nashville Predators are going on. They had a tough night Saturday as well, but we'll get a little bit more into that. So we got a lot to get to. So we should probably set about getting to it. Wade, let's give everybody this weekend's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the Rundown.
Hey, gang, the Monday Rundown is brought to you by our friends at Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education right here in Murray County. So give them a call today at 931-388-5831, or you can visit zioneagles.org and schedule an appointment today. Once again, that's Zion Christian Academy, where they are prepared for college, equipped for purpose.
High school football action from Friday night. Franklin Road Academy with a 39-14 win over Battleground Academy. It was Sycamore 42, Cheatham County 6. Nashville Christian with a 45-7 win over Columbia Academy. And if you are a Georgia football fan, you'll like this. Jared Curtis, 439 offensive yards, 5 touchdowns in that win for the Eagles. Coverage at mainstreetmurray.com. Go check that out. Donaldson Christian with a 51-3 win over Clarksville Academy. It was Ensworth 24, Father Ryan 7. Down at the Brickyard, Giles County with a 49-8 win over Grundy County. Sounds like a pretty good one, Wade.
Pretty good game. Believe it or not, Giles County actually trailed 8-6. and that was the only time they trailed. They turned it on late in the first quarter and ran away with it.
There you go. Harpeth 48, Joe Burns 13, Beach 42, Henry County 23, McKenzie 42, Houston County 13, Lipscomb Academy with a 23-0 win over Montgomery Bell Academy. Marshall County defeated Montgomery Central 47-0. It was Shelbyville 54, Spring Hill 7. We got coverage of that one at mainstreetmurray.com as well. East Robertson with a 48-0 win over Trousdale County. Webb School of Bell Buckle. Oof. This was a football game. Webb School 67, Davidson Academy 50. Yeah. West Creek with a 34-27 win over Clarksville Northeast. It was Westbrook Christian of Alabama 48, Innovation Academy 7, and finally Grace Christian of Franklin with a 42-28 win over Whites Creek.
Taking us into volleyball and girls soccer scores from the weekend on Saturday on the volleyball court. It was Zion Christian picking up a 3-1 win versus Franklin Classical. Saturday girls soccer action, it was Chattanooga Christian 2, CPA 1. Lipscomb Academy picks up a 9-3 win versus St. Mary's Episcopal, and it was University School of Nashville edging out Providence Christian 3-2 was your final there. Nail biter in NAIA college football this weekend as Cumberland outlasts Bethel 21-14 between those two rivals. It was 41-17. TSU wins it big on homecoming over Eastern Illinois. The Vols knocked off the Gators. Took extra time, but they did get it done. 23-17 was your final. More on that later. More on this later as Vanderbilt, as we kicked off the show telling you guys, was a 20-13 winner versus Kentucky. Into Sunday now, we had WNBA scores, and it was the Liberty getting a little bit of revenge there, and they take care of the Lynx 80-66 series now tied at 1 game apiece. The Grizzlies took care of the Bulls 124-121. Speaking of high scoring. Low scoring at times, but it ends up 20-17 in your Sunday contest at Nissan Stadium. The Colts do defeat the Titans. Saturday NHL action, the Preds put up 3-0, the Red Wings put up 3. The Preds put up nothing. And then we close out our weekend scoreboard from Friday. It was the Dodgers advancing to the NLCS with a shutout, 2-0 versus the Padres. Saturday saw a crazy game as the Guardians knock off the Tigers in that division finale, 7-3 there. And then we opened up the NLCS last night. The Dodgers, another shutout. They're on fire on the mound, and they win it 9-1 and now lead that series again 1-0.
Today's volleyball action. We have no times for any of these games. I believe they are all region tournament matchups. Merrill Hyde goes to Camden Central. Lexington is at Fairview. Hickman County, I'm pretty sure that it's Harpeth, not Harpeth Hall. Summertown goes out to Huntington. Madison Academic travels to Loretto, and Creekwood is at McNairy Central. Again, I'm pretty sure those are region semifinal matches all. NBA preseason action, 6 o'clock tonight. You can see it on Valley Sports. Memphis goes to Indiana, taking on the Pacers. In Major League Baseball playoff action at 3:08 on Fox, it is the Mets at the Dodgers in Game 2 of the National League Championship Series. And at 6:38 p.m. on TBS, it is the Guardians at the Yankees in Game 1 of the American League Championship Series. Monday Night Football tonight, single game, AFC East matchup as Buffalo travels to the Jets. There we go. 7:15 kickoff will be shown on ABC. The Jets will be rolling out their interim coach for the first time. And Wade, no Jonathan Vilma jersey today.
Stay tuned. We might slip into something. Vilma, not today, but I'm feeling I got a different tune lined up for everybody.
Okay. All right. There we go. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch items available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. The Associated Press released its top 25 preseason men's basketball poll today, and the two-time defending national champion UConn is third behind number 2 Alabama and top-ranked Kansas. Kansas was the number 1 pick of 30 of the 60 voters on the AP Top 25 poll. Again, Alabama, the number 2 team in the preseason poll, 14 first place votes. UConn received 11 first place votes and is third. Of the remaining 5 fourth place votes, of the remaining 5 first place votes, there we go. Houston got 4 of them, and they are number 4. Iowa State is 5. Gonzaga with 1 first place vote is number 6 in the preseason poll. I'm not sure who I expected necessarily to be number 1. I guess I probably thought UConn would be after coming off of back-to-back national titles. Wade, any thoughts about the Jayhawks being atop this poll right now? Or are we still too immersed in football to really have much college basketball thought?
Well, I will tell you, I shudder at the thought of talking about or covering college or high school basketball this early when we're deep in football. But I will tell you, it's interesting. The AP poll for basketball, you don't get that champion's advantage, it feels like, as much. And, this is the one sport that for so long had something that football didn't have in terms of the playoff with the tournament. So we've seen this before. Kansas does bring back the former Michigan kid, Hunter Dickinson, who had battled some injuries last year. They got a lot of talent. It feels like they're always in the mix to be ranked number 1 or certainly in the top 5. Alabama seems like they return quite a bit. UConn does feel a little odd, like you said, just not seeing them there. But they did lose a pretty good chunk of last year's roster, but we've seen them bounce back now and again, back-to-back titles. So kind of not necessarily shocked. It will be fascinating, obviously, to see how Cooper Flagg and Duke I really shudder to think about that, but everybody will be tuned in to almost every Duke game this year to see how he looks and how high he can maybe take them. And then, then you kind of get into the blue bloods there with North Carolina, Arizona, and Tennessee kind of in that middle section of the poll there.
Yeah. Kansas leading a Big 12 that has 3 of the top 5 teams in the AP preseason poll, 5 of the top 10. So the Big 12 flexing a little bit. The SEC, again, with 9 of the top 25 teams in the poll, including, again, Alabama at number 2, Auburn, Tennessee, and Texas A&M at 11, 12, and 13. Arkansas is also ranked at number 16 with their first-year coach, John Calipari. Ole Miss is in there as well. So a lot of excitement around SEC hoops coming into this season.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun league. And Zakai Ziegler, actually ran into him yesterday. He was hanging out doing a promo. No free shout-outs, though. He was doing a promo at Nissan yesterday. And so he went from the sidelines of the Vols game to right there at Nissan. Tennessee, you figure, will be, a pretty healthy player in the league. Kentucky slips in right there at the bottom of the poll. A lot of buzz about them, especially with Pitino coming back to Midnight Madness the other night. And then another team to keep your eyes on, Mo, is going to be Rutgers. I know that sounds weird to say, but they do slip in at 25. They have Dylan Harper, the son of Ron Harper, who's going to be a top 5 pick in the draft this year. And by getting him, they also got this other stud incoming freshman, Ace Bailey. So Rutgers is kind of, they're rolling the dice on a couple of hot prospects here and seeing how it pays off. I think it's going to be a pretty fun college basketball season just from the fact that UConn has been so dominant, it doesn't feel like they could do it again. So therefore, it's who will step up. But then also, at this point, we can't be shocked if we're sitting here at the end of April and we're talking about UConn somehow doing a three-peat.
You know, you got some old faces in new places. Texas, now a member of the Southeastern Conference, is at number 19. Florida's at 21. But you've also got who was it that jumped it? Cincinnati is at number 20. That's Big 12 Cincinnati now. So again, kind of like it's taken some getting used to these new schools in college football conferences. There's going to be a lot of that in college basketball as well to get, you know, kind of reacclimated to. So
yep, and no Michigan State in the poll. Illinois just slips right out. They should have another good season, even though they lost quite a bit of talent. And the Dusty May experience, Michigan did get 19 first place votes. They have a slew of transfers, so they're not resting on their laurels in his first season. So I'm excited. I don't really get into the season until, you know, the calendar kind of flips into the new year, but we will have some big games. They do a great job of scheduling high-profile games early, and they'll be coming up in short order.
Oh yeah, right around Thanksgiving, maybe a little bit before, they'll start throwing some really high-powered matchups at you there, and trying to kind of pry you away from college football a little bit. But most of us will be a little resistant, so we'll see how that goes. Let's go ahead and take a break here from the Lee Company studios on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we will be chatting with Bruno REAGAN, talking a little Vanderbilt football. Stay tuned after the break. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
He shoots, and he scores!
The Monday Mirror continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We are pleased to be joined by former Vanderbilt offensive lineman BRUNO REAGAN, who is keeping his hand in with some My TV 30 Friday Night Rivals action. Saw him on the sidelines prior to Friday night's game between Nashville Christian and Columbia Academy. And BRUNO, appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon, because your main gig right now, you are teaching at Springfield, right?
Yeah, I'm up at Robertson County, Springfield High School. Just started this fall, so it's been interesting. I mean, my only teaching experience is really like coaching judo. I did it, but I've coached some big classes, all ages, so I kind of thought that skill set might go into the classroom. So I made some calls, got into one, and it's been going well so far.
Well, I don't imagine the kids give you any problem, because, again, former Vanderbilt offensive lineman BRUNO REAGAN. So I don't think order in the classroom is much of a problem at Springfield for you, is it?
No, but I also encourage I don't mind the chaos either. I mean, I've lived it for so long. So like some teachers, they're like, if they talk a little bit, they get on them or whatever. I'm like, if you could, as long as you're not like fighting each other, I'm pretty okay with it. So my kids are pretty reserved though. Yeah.
There you go. BRUNO, what is going on at your alma mater right now?
I think a lot of people are learning a lot of people just frankly have learned. We're seeing the true key to success, which is those that adapt, right? In anything, those that adapt succeed. When Clark Lee first got to Vanderbilt, and this was back when I was working at Rivals with Chris Lee, who gave me my first gig ever in the industry, which I always thank and respect him for. The main thing I heard about Clark Lee, again, sources and all that, like I never asked my former players to tell me anything, but this is what people around the program would tell me, was he wanted to be a build up the program type guy, right? Because Vanderbilt is a very unique place. Like you have to go to class. I don't know if you guys know this. A lot of SEC players, a lot of them probably don't go to class. Like at Vanderbilt, you're required to go to class. You have study hall hours. It is a little bit more rigorous. So you want to bring in guys and build up a culture, a program, things like that. And I don't think Coach Clark Lee, again, I'm making an assumption here based off what I heard about him. I don't think he was very portal-esque. He was not all around that, right? He wanted to bring guys in, build them up. Well, NCAA gets nuked by the Supreme Court, bringing in what we have now. And we are all kind of seeing that sometimes you just might, like, your philosophy might be wrong to get it done. I mean, those first years with Clark Lee, they were tough. I was up there in the booth as an alumni, and when you're in the press box, you're supposed to try and be as objective, like non-emotional as possible. And I just vividly remember ETSU players stomping on our logo after the game. And my blood pressure had to have been in the near criticals of a man dying. Like it was hard. It sucked. It was bad. And it's not like I was out there like, we need to fire Coach Lee or anything, but it was unacceptable. Fast forward to now, somewhere someone was like, here's some money. This is your last chance. Fix it, or how many more years do you have? Well, there's the story of last year, a kid from New Mexico that beats Auburn. Sure sounds like a Vanderbilt guy. Doesn't look like your typical quarterback, a little bit shorter, a wrestler build, by the way. A wrestler build. And you can tell he's a wrestler when he moves in open space. He's not Lamar Jackson out there. But when you get into Vanderbilt and you bring a kid and raise him up through the Vandy standard for a long time was subadequate. So you bring in a kid who doesn't know any better. Sometimes ignorance truly is a bliss. I really do live by this philosophy. Sometimes you have to be ignorant enough to believe you can succeed to do it. And Diego Pavia and those group of guys, they don't know. They probably don't even know what SOV is. Ask any Van what SOV is. Same old Vandy, right? Mm-hmm. They probably don't even know what that means. They haven't been here long enough. but they transfer in and they're just guys who are frankly dudes. Like they're talking about going out to Barstool. I remember if I ever said I was going out somewhere after a game, like I had to watch my back, right? They're like, yeah, we just beat Bama and we're going out to Barstool, Nashville. Good. You need to be out there. People need to see, like, this is the stuff 18-year-olds care about. So I think there's a I don't even know what the right word for, I don't even know if what I'm about to say is a word. There's like a transfiguration around the program to becoming a real football school. And go figure, you can win and be good at school. Like you can win and go to class. You can win and be a little mini celebrity. All that is necessary, especially now. So Vandy has taken advantage of the landscape that they're in now. And they won. They had the biggest win, school history, hands down, right? And all of a sudden, Vandy is like America's hero. All eyes are on Vanderbilt. People are talking about bringing game day to Texas. Now, again, they have to get past Ball State, which I don't know how many people are familiar with Vandy. They lost to Georgia State this year also on the road. Vandy, there's still some Vandyisms going on where why are we playing at Georgia State, right? So there's still some things, but I mean, then they could lose every game this season. They changed something about Vanderbilt with that win, right? Like that's just what it is. And obviously they haven't lost every game. They just went on the road and beat Kentucky in an SEC game. So I think some people are changing, and props to head coach Clark Lee, Barton Simmons, all the work they're doing there, because they see the way they need to win and they're taking it.
Bruno, to your point, I mean, last night on HBO, on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, there's a whole segment where they spliced local newscasters across the country and reacting to Vanderbilt celebrating, down Broadway with the goalposts. I mean, they have entered the full-blown national discussion. And also, you kind of made a point that resonated with me. For a school that has such an academic pedigree and so many smart people on that campus, should we be surprised that if it really comes down to money in this day and age, that Vanderbilt is not the school that maybe kind of starts to figure things out? I mean, they got some sharp financial minds, and it's like, hey, just use the money effectively. And with the investment, it seems like it's paid off thus far.
Well, it's interesting because I'm not going to come out here and name donors. There's one man who always traveled with us that, I mean, obviously very well-known guy who I was like, he's probably the guy who pays for a lot of our scholarships. It's a private institution. When you see the $3 billion endowment, you would think that is like cold, hard, liquid money that Vanderbilt has. And that's not the case. A lot of it doesn't divvy up the athletic. We have to give a lot of credit to athletic director, Candace Story-Lee, the heir to David Williams and his legacy. She was there when I was there as an assistant AD, and I mean, she was as real as they get. So to see her finally have the success, I mean, Vanderbilt has been a wildly successful school in every sport other than the two major ones, right? Basketball and football. They have the baseball success. They're successful in every other sport, but there's just been that sort of lacking as a SEC school to be successful in the recent years in one of those two sports. Basketball still trying to find their mojo, Jerry Stackhouse era, but football is it's lightning in a bottle right now. She deserves a lot of the credit for kind of going out. It's not easy. I don't know how much she's allowed to say it about her job on the political scape, but she has to go find these funds. She has to appeal to these donors. It's not like there's people that are Vanderbilt alum that there's shekels to be had around. Now I don't have them. I'll donate my $20 to the Commodore Fund. I'll do what I can. I'm a teacher, by the way. I don't know if you see my classroom, right? So I'm not here with $100 million either. But if Vanderbilt keeps winning like this, it's so much easier to sell, right? So it's not just going to be one guy bringing in the money. It's going to be, well, first of all, it's the entire fandom. I know there are people that are donating to the National Commodore Club or the collective that have never donated in their entire life, right? They're like, hey, you keep winning like this, you have my money. Take it all, right? And there's going to be big time donors that get in there and get into work, because Diego Pavia, that era is going to end soon enough, and there's going to have to be replacements if we want to keep up the success we're having. I mean, Vanderbilt hasn't been to a bowl game since Texas Bowl. Texas Bowl, when was that? 2018. So it's been 6 years. So we have to get to a bowl game first. 2 wins away, by the way. That would be a big step for the program, and just keep knocking off SEC teams if possible.
Bruno, you mentioned Candace Story-Lee, a Vanderbilt alumnus. Clark Lee, no relation. Vanderbilt alumnus, how critical do you think their background as Vanderbilt graduates is to the success of this football program right now, just from the terms of them being able to really get across what being a Vanderbilt student athlete is all about?
I don't think being an alum is necessarily a qualification needed, but in the case of Vanderbilt specifically, it means everything. When you have to change everything, when you have to blow something up, or you have to make history, you have to create a culture. That is an impossibly daunting task that you could not pay me enough money to lose my hair over, right? I'm already losing my hair, and I don't get paid $100 million to change an athletic program of a prestigious university in the South. They, as alum, I can't speak for Coach Lee. I've talked to him, here now, but I've never seen him as is. I've heard things. I've heard great things. But I know Candace Story Lee, and I know she cares. I know deep in her bones she cares about Vanderbilt University, and she's going to put in the time, the work, whatever, until she's faced heavy criticism the last 6 years. Heavy criticism. But she pushed through regardless, and now we're finding the success. I mean, the stadium it's starting to come together. It looks great, and it fits like the identity of Vanderbilt. We don't need 100,000 person stadium. We don't need that. We don't need because it'll be 100,000 of the other fans probably. You got to remember, Vanderbilt, I believe our undergrad numbers are like 4,000 compared to other schools. Like a state school on average would be what, 16 to 20,000. That's on the lighter side. I remember USF was 40,000 undergrad when I was committed there. So it's a small community, and you have to know that niche, play that niche, and just have the drive to kind of overcome. I remember there was another AD before Candace Story Lee, and I'm not going to come on here and talk negative or drop names, but it just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel right. But now we have these two people who it definitely matters to. I mean, Coach Clark Lee, he said before the game where Nick Saban had that quote, they were playing on the Jumbotron after they won, there's no hard or easy place to play in the SEC except Vanderbilt. And Coach Clark Lee went out on the Tuesday presser before the game, said, oh, that quote didn't bother me. They win the game. And then he comes out, he's like, yeah, that quote pissed me off. This is my school. I'm an alumni, right? So that just goes to show that meant something to him, and that lit a fire. And athletes work like that. Like motivation sometimes comes from the unlikeliest places. Let's go back to the meme Alabama game, 2017, where they come to our place. We're both 3-0, and they wax us 56-0, and they had in their locker room playing, Nephi's quote where we were going to show them how to play SEC ball. That meant something to them, and that motivated them. Nick Saban, I don't know what cursed reality we live in where he thought it was a good idea. He has to be a talker now, and he talked a little too much. And that Alabama team or that Vanderbilt team was fired up to go out and play those guys and prove themselves.
Bruno REAGAN, former Vanderbilt offensive lineman, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Bruno, you beat Alabama, number one team in the country, first win over a number one team in program history, as you mentioned. How does Vanderbilt avoid the letdown that everybody would have understood if they had gone to Kentucky and laid an egg Saturday?
The process that's entirely on.
Mark, did we lose Bruno?
Apparently so.
That's not good, because he was getting in the there he is. There you are. Yeah. Welcome back.
If you can hear me, there we go. Perfect. Sorry about that. I guess Wi-Fi at the school. Now, two main points: culture and coaching. There's a myth in sports where you have to be working sports, especially at that level, right before the pros at SEC level. It is hard work that consumes your life. But there seems to be a subset of people. Diego Pavia is going on ESPN, and they have Johnny Manziel coming, and you see the comments below on Twitter. It's like, hey, shouldn't we be focused on Kentucky? Like, you know how stupid you would have to be to pass up an opportunity to go sell your program on ESPN for what, 10 minutes? And I know where Diego Pavia is at. They pull him out of meetings and put him in front of, a background. And he's just there. Like, he'll go back to meetings after that, right? So it comes down to coaching and culture. If you show up on Monday and practice your tail off, you understand the coaches do the work essentially for you. You just have to review it on your own time. You have a game plan. Hey, this team's running this front offensively. Defensively, they do this stuff. This is who has to step up this week. Linebackers, heavy RPO team. You got to be on your heels and your toes. Sorry, but you got to be the athletes, cover sideline to sideline. Offensive, they're 3 down front, so you're going to have to make a lot of adjustments. But if you can pass protect, we'll win the game. And if you work on that stuff Monday and Tuesday with focus, you'll be well prepared. It's not like you have to be Kobe Bryant on the field snapping 100 times. That, you don't have to do that. So they celebrate hard, sell the win on Sunday, and then Monday turn the page. And they did that. And now, they're in a great spot. People I've never even seen before. If you look at the AP polls that have just came out this week, people are like, rank Vandy, you cowards. That's the entire conversation. That is the national conversation. They're like, rank Vandy. I'm sure if Vandy beats Ball State and then they host Texas, number 1 team in the country right now, rightfully so, coming in, that there's a chance they'll be ranked. So people's outcries will be answered.
Bruno, you mentioned, I think there was something on Twitter about a bunch of the guys going to a Preds game, and you mentioned that, these guys need to be out here for a number of reasons. One, they need to enjoy this, but 2, people need to see them enjoying this, particularly, recruits and donors, I guess, because it comes back to, selling what has been an undersold product for a pretty good period of time. And so, for recruits, they need to see everything that's available to them if they come to Vanderbilt, I guess. And donors need to see, a little bit of a return on their investment, I guess.
If you are someone that donated, I don't know the amount of money to a collective, let's say around the realm of a few million. Let's say you donate a few million that's coming in the season, and that's I don't care how wealthy you are. That is no drop in the bucket. Mm-hmm. And you see this result right now, and you see all I'm sure you have to feel somewhat responsible for what you're seeing right now. You have to feel very validated in whatever you spent. And seeing them at the Preds game, you know what 18-year-olds care about? Cars, chains, girls, and then education, probably in that order, okay? You want to know why? I know, because I was once 18, and I hung around a bunch of 18-year-olds. That's what they care about. So they see these guys, super famous. They're at Preds games. They're on ESPN. They have Johnny Manziel, one of the most exciting football players ever, coming to congratulate them, right? That's what 18-year-olds see. There's a kid at my school right now, class of 2028, defensive back, freshman. Went to Kentucky, took a visit, got his first SEC offer. Watch Vanderbilt beat them on the road, right? Like that stuff, I'll never forget. I went to Ole Miss, and I watched Jordan Rodgers and Jordan Matthews tear up Ole Miss at Ole Miss. And that stuck with me for a long time. I was like, there's something about those guys. I mean, they James Franklin was on the sideline going crazy. They beat Ole Miss bad on the road. That's the stuff recruits care about. It matters. So if you say it doesn't, from a moral perspective, you might have an argument. I want Vanderbilt to beat everybody, have the best recruits, and it is such an opportunity. Vanderbilt is such a good school. Mo, you kind of got the pleasure to see me grow up. I mean, I was a kid when you met me. Mm-hmm. I guess I still am a kid, but I was a real kid when you met me. I was not like an academic or any. I was a meathead wrestler, but I got the opportunity to go to this school, like this university. I would have never got the chance to go to a university like Vanderbilt without football. It changed my life, and it opens the door for all these opportunities. Now I'm a service-based individual, so I go into teaching, I coach, and things like that. But the connections, the people I've met, and just the way, like when I tell people, employers, like I went to Vanderbilt, like it changes, like it is such a valuable thing to have. in this world, but we suck at football. So no one wants to go there. You know, they go to Georgia, they go to Ole Miss. And I'm not going to say that those people don't have, you know, outlets after football, but it is such a great school that just because it sucks at football, you know, a lot of kids miss the opportunity to go. It is an amazing place. You learn a lot. If you care at all about academics, when I was there, I probably didn't care enough, but I still got the opportunity to learn a lot. So it's good to see that this university is getting the mainstream love it deserves. And the school cares so much about their ranking too. I'm sure you see ranked 14th, ranked 15th or whatever. I guarantee you they start winning football games, that ranking will go up just because like that's part of the prestige. If you're in America, especially the deep South, you better be good at football.
Bruno, yeah, you are 100% correct. And to your point, you know, that win over Alabama is the biggest win in school history. But in a weird way, I felt like this win over Kentucky was maybe one of the more important wins in school history, because it would have, as you said earlier, been classic Vanderbilt to just lay an egg in that game. And we've seen Kentucky beat some good teams. So the fact that that game played out the way it did, I think it's not on the same level as Alabama, but it's certainly got to be a very, very important win to keep this momentum going. With all due respect to Ball State, because you assume that one should be a little more salvageable, right?
Absolutely. Again, everyone wants to. I'm a fan now, so I don't have any problem saying like we should go out there and wax Ball State. Will it happen? To be seen.
26 and a half point favorite at home. You should take care of business. You
should, right? But I've also seen UNLV drop 40 on us like twice. So it is what it is. That's the history of the school. But I agree. I mean, that is such a great point too. Like Alabama, biggest win in school history, most important game ever in school history was the one after that to see if it was a fluke or not. Everyone was giving Vandy their flowers. Now there's like a national hate towards Alabama and the dominance they've had over the past 20 years or so, right? So people are already patting Vandy on the back saying it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a fluke. Well, now they kind of got to prove it going on the road and winning on the road there is some mystique to it. It is so hard to do. It is such a hard thing to do, especially in the conference we play in. And they did it. I mean, they already went out and did it the first time. So there's some curses that still need to be broken. I don't think Vanderbilt has defeated South Carolina in a football game. It's been a long time. We might be trudging on near 20 years now. It's been a very long time. I didn't do it. There were 5 years before me didn't do it. It's been 5 years since. So we're trudging on a long time. So that could be something we finish up. Historic programs like Florida. I saw a tweet today. It was, guys, do you realize Vanderbilt controls its own path to the playoff? Like, in a funny way, it kind of does. And you look at the Georgia State and the Missouri game, and you're just like, oh, man. But that's not the way. And again, I was mentally beaten down to think this way. But when you lose those games, I mean, you can't even remotely think about them. You just have to think the next week. And it's fun. This has been such a fun season to be a Vanderbilt fan. And there were people earlier this season calling for the guy's job, right? And it's like, how stupid do I feel now? That is the most fun. Anytime someone feels stupid, it is the most humiliating thing ever. This is the fun kind of feeling stupid. This is like, how could I ever have been so dumb? This is awesome. This is great. So what a wild ride of emotions it's been for Vanderbilt fans the past 5-10. And if you've ever been to a Vanderbilt game and you look in the stands, there are lifelong Vanderbilt fans that have resigned themselves. They've probably never thought in their entire life, I would never watch Vanderbilt beat a number one team ever. Like there's people that have cheered for this team 40, 50 years. Never thought they'd see that. Saw it.
There you go. Bruno Reagan, former two-time state wrestling champion, former Vanderbilt offensive lineman, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Bruno, we appreciate your time, man, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, sounds good. It was nice seeing you again, Mo. Thanks for having me on. It's always fun coming on, so I appreciate you guys.
Sounds good. Hey, when we continue here on Main Street Sports today, we will talk a little bit more college football because, again, that Vanderbilt 20-13 win at Kentucky wasn't the only thing that happened on Saturday. We'll get into a little bit more when we come back to the Lee Company studios after this.
wanna be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you wanna taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Welcome back into the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports, today presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton along with Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios, and we are talking a little Major League Baseball. No, that's the next segment. I'm sorry. We're talking a little college football, getting ahead of myself. Tennessee, despite that 23-17 win against visiting Florida in overtime, slipped 3 spots to number 11 in the Associated Press poll this week. And Wade, I posted something on Twitter, on Facebook Saturday. I think that maybe there's too much focus on how much you won by and not enough focus on winning, because it just feels like across the SEC, every game is going to go down to the wire, and the blowouts that you expect aren't going to be there, it doesn't feel like. I'm not sure Tennessee got enough credit for winning that ball game.
Yes and no, I would say. But the interesting thing is this season more than ever, the poll really is kind of meaningless, right? Because it's going to sort itself out, and we will see the teams that are worthy by the end. Now, as far as, talking head situation, it's tough, right? Because Tennessee, yeah, they won, and yes, the wins are hard to come by. I think this is the sneaky byproduct of the NIL is everybody's kind of on an even playing field for the first time, and so we're seeing teams that, you have your absolute blue bloods, kind of like Texas, Georgia, et cetera, one of which has obviously already lost a game, but and Ohio State as well, which has already lost a game. But by and large, the landscape feels like it's evening out a little more. So yeah, to your point, wins are harder to come by, especially on the road. And I know Tennessee played at home, but I'm kind of the camp. I'm not pressing the panic button in terms of ranking.
Mhm.
But I am kind of pressing the panic button in a little bit. If Mertz doesn't go out, which it looks like his now season and college career, therefore, are over after that knee injury. That was a game that Tennessee, and I was really shocked that Napier maybe doesn't go for 2 and try and win the game in regulation. Survive in advance is nice, but certainly you feel like Tennessee would have wanted to have a better showing by the end of that night.
Yeah, I think that the expectation was for Tennessee to do more than survive Florida, but for Tennessee fans in particular, these days surviving Florida was probably enough, I think. And so just an interesting follow-up to that. Again, Tennessee drops from 8th to 11th in the AP poll following that 23-17 overtime win against Florida. I've got the poll here.
I was just getting ready to say, too, and part of that, Mo, is obviously LSU had a massive win in equally crazy fashion over a really ranked Ole Miss squad. And Iowa State jumps up a couple spots because they're undefeated, but also because they had a nice win versus a pretty good West Virginia team. Tennessee, it will even out. Their big thing is obviously you want to survive the Florida game because this is the week that will really kind of put the test to you in terms of where the rest of your season could go.
And in terms of surviving it, you got the W, but I'm not sure. Maybe surviving it isn't the right phrase to use because Tennessee lost linebacker Keenan Pili to a torn ACL, much as Florida did with Graham Mertz, like you mentioned. And I'm not sure which is the more significant loss for which team, because again, Mertz, the Wisconsin transfer in his second season in Gainesville, is gone for the year, but Pili came in and assumed such a vital role in that Tennessee defense, and he has suffered his second season-ending injury in as many years for UT. He was lost to a tricep injury last year in the season opener and was in the middle of his 7th season of college football, 5 at BYU before transferring to UT. But his experience will be nearly impossible to replace. He was pretty much their play caller, their green dot as it was on the field, a team captain, tied for the team lead in tackles with 29. So this is really a tough loss for them, and I don't know exactly where they go to replace him, particularly heading into the Alabama game, as you were saying.
Yeah, to me, that is a tough loss from a leadership standpoint with the signal caller, but also obviously the experience. And I mean, there was a point in that game where Florida was kind of running at will, kind of mashing the Vols defensively in the mouth, and they did, batten down the hatches defensively and obviously win that game. That is a loss that it will be curious to see how it plays out over the next couple of weeks because it doesn't feel like in a short term, in a week or two, maybe you can survive. But man, when you talk about war of attrition and depth, that's certainly a piece that you don't want to lose for a considerable length of time. And that unfortunately happened.
During Billy Napier's coaching career at Louisiana, or Louisiana Lafayette, depending on how old you are, I guess, he went for it late in the first half and scored a touchdown rather than kicking a field goal. And coming off the field at halftime after that, he told a TV reporter, "Scared money don't make money." Saturday night, Napier had a chance to go for the win with a 2-point conversion after scoring late to make it a 17-16 game against Tennessee. had a 2-point play called, was on the field with it. Tennessee called timeout, and Napier apparently had scared money because when they came out of the timeout, he kicked the extra point, went to overtime, and eventually lost. I'm not sure. I mean, if you're a Tennessee fan, you're glad that it worked out the way it did. But if you're Florida right there, why do you not go for 2?
Yeah, in real time, watching it, it kind of felt like what we discussed on the show last week with the quarterback platoon system with Ben McKee. It kind of felt like Napier almost was doing the job security card one last time a little bit. Hey, at least we can guarantee overtime. And then if you lose, it's like, well, we lost in overtime. I mean, that's most people are going to forgive you for an overtime loss in a situation like that. But I'm reading, kind of some of his post-game comments, and I do kind of also agree with this a little bit, though. So I don't know where I land, because when Tennessee calls the timeout, you have them kind of stunned, you have them kind of reeling, going for 2 quickly there. Maybe that's your time to strike. But when they call that timeout, that does kind of give them a chance to catch their breath, certainly get aligned defensively. So now I'm kind of back. It's tough, right? Because and if they win the game in overtime, we're not even having this discussion. But I was kind of stunned, the old adage of go for 2 on the road, and play for overtime at home. It felt like that was the classic situation. And if they had gone for 2, win or lose, I don't know that you would have really had much of a argument against it. But it just kind of felt like, for some reason to me in real time, that he was playing it very safe, almost from a job conservation standpoint to a weird extent. I don't know if that lands, but that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah. Did you see the highlight from the Georgia-Mississippi State game?
The Woody Hayes highlight.
There was a lot of Woody Hayes parallels being drawn across social media. Mark, are you able to grab that video there of Kirby Smart and his meeting with Mississippi State quarterback Michael Van Buren during the fourth quarter of that 41-31 dogfight? Mark must be efforting trying to pull that video up, but
he got his money's worth.
Yeah. Van Buren went out of bounds on the Georgia sideline during the fourth quarter of that ball game, and took a pretty good shove from Kirby Smart. Some pretty aggressive contact. Now, after the game, Kirby said that it was an accident. He was trying to get his defensive coordinator's attention. He has since reached out to both the quarterback and to Mississippi State coach Jeff Lebby to try to clarify and diffuse the situation. But immediately he said he didn't remember the encounter, I'll say. It was interesting. I mean, it looked worse than Kirby characterizes it, for sure. And maybe it was just a heat of the moment, didn't really realize where I was or what I was doing or why this guy was here. I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, I've not been a coach in a Southeastern Conference football game, so I've not been that tunnel visioned that I wouldn't see somebody like that. But apparently the video isn't great, so we're going to skip it. But we've what do you think, Mark?
Watch Kirby push this quarterback.
Take off much today, but does there and shows the wheels.
That's not Mark, for the record.
No.
A little hit there from Dan Jackson.
That was
Kirby Smart at his visor.
For didn't know he was there, doesn't really. I don't know. I'll be interested to see what.
Watch Kirby push this quarterback.
Take off much today, but does there and shows the wheels. Got a little hit there from Dan Jackson.
It seems unnecessary at the very least, but
Yeah.
I don't know if the SEC will be taking any action on it or not. But maybe Libby and Van Buren are okay with it, and so it's go forth and sin no more. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like a fine, maybe. I'll tell you what, if they were playing somebody other than Texas this weekend, I think the ramifications might be potentially a little steeper, but it feels like a fine. And yeah, old Kirby, man, lay off the juice out there on the side. He was hitting in the Monster Energy drink a little too hard there, it looked like.
Yeah. You mentioned that LSU walk-off against Ole Miss, and that was a game that we had figured was going to be, top shelf, and it turned out to be all of that. And it goes to overtime. Ole Miss kicks the field goal. LSU gets the walk-off touchdown pass, and it was kind of the game of the night when all was said and done. Other than, the game of the night in the SEC, because that Oregon-Ohio State game was a pretty good one as well. But yeah, heck of a night, heck of a day in college football all day on Saturday, and this weekend shapes up to be right there with it. We'll be talking more about that as the week progresses, but let's go ahead and take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back to the Lee Company Studios, we will be talking Major League Baseball playoffs. Stay tuned after the break.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Welcome into hour number 2 of the Monday Mirror here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're going to talk some MLB playoffs here in this segment. But before we do, got a tweet from Steve M. at SMullins0317. It says, Pavia is this year's Dalton Connect. And that's a really interesting, really insightful tweet, I think, Wade. I responded and said I don't think that Diego's professional upside is what Net Connects is, but just in terms of coming in and impacting a program in 1 year, I think there's a lot to that.
Yeah, it's probably a fair comparison in terms of the instant plug and play. And unless it's an elite, quarterback or a super skill player, you don't really see the one-off football transfer that makes that big of an impact. But not only him, but having Beck as the coordinator, and then also obviously the Jerry Kill connection, it's kind of formed this weird triumvirate that's kind of fueling these guys in the right direction. And yeah, Pavia continues to rise. I did see he tweeted at EA Sports. He said, man, you guys got me at a 79 rating still. He tweeted him yesterday and said, bump me up, guys.
I mean, I don't play EA Sports, but I do know that 79 out of 100 in anything for that guy sounds a little low. So yeah, y'all might want to address that, EA Sports. Come on now. As we mentioned in the rundown, the Dodgers defeated the Mets 9-0 last night to open the National League Championship Series out in LA. And of significance is that 0 on the Mets side, because with that 9 shutout innings that the Dodgers got from Jack Flaherty, Daniel Hudson, and Ben Kasparius, the Dodgers have 33 consecutive shutout innings in postseason play, which matches the 1966 Baltimore Orioles for the most shutout innings consecutively in playoff history. So if they can get a scoreless first here in just a bit, I guess. Is this the 308 start, or is this
Yeah, they're the first game today.
Okay. So stay tuned, because you might get to see a little history here early in this matchup between the Dodgers and the Mets. 9-0. They really announced their presence with authority yesterday. I did not watch because, again, it's the Dodgers and the Mets, but Kodai Senga had a rough go, gave up 3 runs and 1 1/3 before they got him out. 4 walks, no strikeouts. And I guess the reach to start him in game 1 did not work. He made 1 start during the regular season. He got off, I guess he was injured in spring training. Again, only had 1 start, and injured a calf in that one, I believe. So made a start in the National League Division Series against the Phillies, went 2 innings. So they were definitely, kind of reaching with him in game 1 yesterday, and it did not pay off. So they had to go to the bullpen for 7 2/3, and that could have some far-reaching impact as well over the course of this series as they try to match up with the Dodgers.
Yeah, 2 runs in the first, 1 in the second. I mean, three runs is obviously not a death sentence, but with the way that they've been pitching and the way they've been playing, it certainly felt like it. And I do know one thing. I mentioned 3 runs in the first 2 innings. The Mets only had 3 hits all night. So, I mean, that kind of tells the tale of the tape. Lindor, who's had such a great little run in these last couple of weeks, held hitless. You got to go all the way down. What is it? The 7-hitter in the lineup. 7, 8, and 9, I think, had the only hits, or 6, 7, 9 had the only hits of the night for the Mets. So, yeah, it was a real clunker on there. Obviously they wanted to get out to a fast start. Instead, they get the complete opposite. So this will be an interesting bounce back game that just got underway, because it feels like getting 1 would be greatly preferred. Getting 2 obviously would have been ideal, but getting 1 seems like it is a massive thing for them. But really, more than anything, they can't afford, in my opinion, to come out and get blasted again today, because I think they were banking on getting the series back to New York and really riding that New York wave that's going on and just really cashing in on that. But if you come in with a 9-0 and then, like an 8-1 or something like that, it'll still be rocking, but it won't be as rocking, right?
No, because, I mean, then you're kind of in that waiting for the other shoe to fall kind of thing. I mean, if you go home down 0-2, I think you've got some hope, but it's really kind of hanging on a string there. So, and you got to figure some kind of way to get this Dodger offense slowed down a little bit. I mean, Mookie Betts with the bases loaded double late, and you're already down 6-0. Ohtani gets on 3 times. Everything's kind of mounting up against you in that one. So you've got to really flush it and get back in here today and try to get some good vibes going, as you like to say. And early runs for the Mets would help with that, just to kind of break up this role that the Dodger pitching is on right now. So
yeah, and the scary thing for the Mets, you just mentioned Ohtani. He struck out 10 times in the series against the Padres. There was only 1 game that he struck out just once. And even though they managed to get the 2-0 win on Friday, he struck out 3 times in that game, was held hitless. The fact he didn't strike out last night, the fact that he had 2 hits, drove in a run, man, it felt like the moment was there for the Padres for sure, in terms of him kind of being a little bit of a slump in his postseason debut. That is a guy that you do not want to get going if you're the Mets, because Mookie's been carrying them thus far. And it seems like he's got no intent of slowing down. But now Ohtani heating up is really cause for concern.
At the top of the order.
Right.
Yeah. And all of the havoc that he wreaks on the bases once he is on. So, yeah, you really don't want both Ohtani and Mookie rolling. And it looks like that may possibly be the case for the Mets right here. Wade, we talked about the unenviable position that the Cleveland Guardians were in, facing Game 4 in Detroit and going home for Game 5 against, I'm just going to say it, AL Cy Young winner Tarek Skubal.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Lane Thomas didn't want to hear any of that.
Lindor just cranked a homer for the record. Lead off dong for the Mets, so they're in pretty good shape.
So the Dodgers and the 66 Orioles are tied with 33 shutout innings in postseason play, being the major league record. So, again, Lane Thomas, former Bearden High School out of Knoxville standout, mid-season acquisition for the Guardians from the Nationals. Pretty well saved Cleveland's bacon there with that grand slam off of Skubal, because he had been rolling up to that point. But that was the key in Cleveland's 7-3 win in Game 5 over Detroit on Monday, and it propelled them into this ALCS matchup at Yankee Stadium that starts at 6:38 tonight. So Cleveland kind of getting off the mat. And when you survey the rest of the postseason, you got Dodgers, Mets, and Yankees. I think that there are a lot of baseball fans that will be jumping on the Guardian bandwagon here over the next few days.
Yeah, undoubtedly. And talking with our good buddy Blaine Keller at the Titans game yesterday, we were going over this game, and Scooball was rolling, but man, there is that proverbial moment. We see it almost every year where an ace, usually you see it, he's left in too long almost, but nobody is perfect. And Scooball, as well as he was pitching, all it takes is one or two things to go against you, and then one mistake, and all of a sudden you're smoked. And that's kind of what took care of business. Now, to the Tigers' credit, they go up 1-0, but then they add a run in the 6th, they add a run in the 7th, and it's a 5-3 game, and you're sitting there thinking, man, this is such a scrappy team. Can they pull this thing off? But props to the Guardians for posting a little insurance run in the 7th and then another in the 8th to kind of close that door. And yeah, to your point, there will be a lot of baseball fans, whether diehard or casual, that will certainly be rooting for Cleveland, kind of the unsung hero in this little four-way dance.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's a little tougher to root for any of those other three teams if you have a team. So that'll be worth keeping an eye on. There was something else I was going to mention, and I lost it just that quick. But again, game 1 of the Guardians and Yankees starts at 6:38 tonight. You can see it on TBS, so be sure and check that out. Let's go ahead and take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, we will have John Glennon talking little Tennessee Titans, so stay tuned when we come back from the break.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
He shoots, and he scores!
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
The Monday Mirror continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we are joined now by John Glennon of the Nashville Post to talk a little Tennessee Titans, as they did what apparently the Tennessee Titans do, dropping a 20-17 decision to visiting Indianapolis yesterday to open their AFC South schedule. John, welcome in, man. We appreciate you taking some time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. It's, you know, I covered Vanderbilt for a couple of years back in another life, and one of the things that I talked about was how hard it was to write "we suck" so many different times without writing "we suck." You know, I mean, have you gotten there yet with the Titans? I mean, how many different ways are there to write yesterday's game story when you've written it so many times in the past?
You're exactly right. Oh, you know, I wrote one story yesterday, one very large story, kind of a 10 takeaways tale. And then I was sitting down and I was getting ready. I usually write a couple stories, each Sunday after the game. And the second one was kind of going to be a story that kind of took a look at Will Levis. And it turns out Will Levis is struggling. I know that you might be surprised by this, but I pulled the plug on it at that point. I said, I just did one and, a very large, very comprehensive story on how bad the Titans were. I just can't bring myself to do the latest in the Chronicles of Will Levis is struggling story. So you nailed it. There are not that many ways to write that story again.
And they say cliches are cliches for a reason, because they're true. But they say that insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I know that the Titans Brain Trust is committed to finding out in this 2024 season whether or not Will Levis can be QB1 long-term for this franchise. 5 games in, don't they have their answer?
They certainly have a good sample size, I would dare say, and that's a question. That's basically what I'm writing today. As a matter of fact, is the question of you've really got 2 priorities right now. As you referenced, the Titans have said this season is basically a referendum on Will Levis. We want to find out as much as we can. This guy was the number 33 overall pick in the 2023 draft. We want to.
That's on them, by the way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true also. But they want to find out everything they can about him, his potential. Does he have the kind of stuff that and make him be the quarterback of the future? But at the same time, Brian Callahan was asked today in particular, what takes more of a priority? Is it winning or is it evaluating players? And Brian Callahan said there's no doubt winning takes top priority over everything. And that obviously raises the question, if you're rolling out Will Levis week after week after week and his performances continue to be as poor as they are you doing the most you can to win a football game? And I am not saying, I don't think any of us are going to say that Mason Rudolph is a tremendous quarterback waiting in the wings. But the fact of the matter is, Mason Rudolph was the quarterback for 3/4 of the only game that the Titans have won this year. And though he did nothing spectacular in that game, he at least played steady, mistake-free football. And to me right now, if the Titans are really trying to win, that sounds like a pretty good formula right now.
It not only does it sound like a pretty good formula, John, but it feels like that might be all this team needs.
Yeah, I agree with you. The defense, there were some lapses yesterday, but, you allowed 20 points. That's certainly a solid figure, and you should be able to win your share of games with that. And going into that game, they were number 1 overall defensively. They were number 1 against the pass. We all know special teams has been relatively disastrous at times. But still, I think the bottom line is, if you've got an offense that's scoring, anywhere from 20 to 24 points on a regular basis, you could easily be 2-3, 3-2. I mean, it's not insane to think they could be 4-1 this point. The only game that they really were dominated was Green Bay. So, they don't need a Superman at quarterback. Will Levis doesn't need to carry the team. And I think that's the way they started off yesterday, right? They started off, I thought, with a very conservative game plan for Will Levis. A lot of check downs, a lot of swing passes, etc. And it seemed to me like, let's give this guy a little confidence. He's probably a little gun shy right now. And it was going in the right direction for a while. And then, you have that late turnover. And not only do you have that late turnover, but Will Levis really couldn't get the Titans going on any drive in their last 4 possessions or so. So just a lot of struggles on that offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, John, to your point, with the game plan, man, even myself, it did seem really conservative. And I guess I'm curious, is that because you wanted to prove that you can run the ball a little more after that had kind of not been as much of a focus in the first couple of weeks? Or was it to, limit the chance for danger of Levis in your mind?
Yeah, I think there's probably both. I think they've gotten better and better at running the ball. And, and yesterday was another good game in terms of running. Pollard goes for 93 and a touchdown. I think they ran for about 145 yards or so overall. So that part of the offense is really coming around. But, as Brian Callahan has said, multiple times, that's not enough. You have to be able to throw the football consistently on a regular basis to win in the NFL. And that's, as I say, my sense, and it wasn't specifically said, but I think maybe they started so conservatively in terms of passing just because they didn't want to have that first quarter Levis interception, the one that we saw the last time he was out against Miami, and the one that maybe sets a bad tone for the rest of the game. So it was swing pass left, swing pass right, throw everything within 5 yards, maybe give the guy, a little bit of confidence, and don't lose the game or don't fall behind by a lot early because of a big turnover. And it's telling, I think, that, 5 games into Will Levis's second season, that's the approach that you have to take to a game, is to limit his mistakes instead of, say, trying to accentuate what he did well, at least for parts of last year.
John, I'm also curious, what was going on with the offensive line yesterday? Because they didn't give up a sack, and that's not something I'm used to saying or even fathoming lately with this team.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of offensive positives to come out of yesterday's game, but that was certainly one of them. I think one of the reasons, that they did concentrate on getting the ball out quicker for Will Levis. I think I want to say he only took an average of 2.3 seconds or so, which is quicker, by half a second or so than a season average. So that probably helped in that regard. They weren't necessarily in a lot of obvious drop back situations because the run game had been working so well and the game was so close. So they weren't obviously in situations where they absolutely had to pass. So that helped too. But in general, I think they held up pretty well. A lot of eyes were focused on right tackle. Leroy Watson there got his first NFL start, moved ahead of Nicholas Petit-Frere. And I kind of agreed with what Brian Callahan had to say today at his presser, that Watson was okay. Not great, but did not give up a sack, gave up a couple of pressures, and had 3 penalties as well. So obviously that's got to be cleaned up. But 0 sacks, and that after only 1 sack allowed in Miami as well. So maybe we're seeing some positive signs in that regard.
John Glennon with the Nashville Post joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. JG, again, trying to find some positives for this club, and I was just getting ready to mention the offensive line when Wade snuck it from me there.
Great minds think alike.
Absolutely, yeah, especially when there aren't a whole lot of other ones out there. But I mean, you had to, relatively speaking, feel pretty good about what this offensive line did, which in part was why they were able to run the ball the way they did, I feel like.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see, the first, few weeks there, I think, these guys were still kind of getting used to the offensive line coaching's a bit of Bill Callahan. He's a tremendous offensive line coach, impeccable resume. But I get the sense of talking to the guys on the offensive line that there are different techniques, a lot of different and more detailed techniques that Bill Callahan uses. And I think there was a process of catching up to that. I think, with new faces also, you had a new left tackle, you've got a new center. Dylan Radins didn't play much right guard last year, and he's there. And the right tackle has been, a little bit of competitive situation. So I think there's that matter of gelling as well on the offensive line. But I think we're starting to see some steps in a positive direction there. So that's a plus. We talked about the run game in general being a plus. Tony Pollard continues to look good, and you find yourself kind of scrambling at that point for other positives. One, I guess, first interception of the season for the Titans. Coming into yesterday's game, they were one of just 3 teams that hadn't picked off a pass this year. Amani Hooker took care of that in the first quarter and delivered the ball to the 27-yard line of the Colts, set the offense up there for a short touchdown drive. So again, we see a situation where Titans defense doing a whole lot of what they could to help out the offense, but there's got to be a little bit of help on the offensive side as well.
Yeah, there's got to be some complementary football there, as they like to say, when the defense is getting done what they're getting done. The offense has got to carry their part of the load as well. And again, that's unfortunately coming back to one spot. And if it's going to be interesting if Brian Callahan did in fact say, and I have no reason to think he didn't, but if he did say that winning is the primary goal for this team, it really doesn't feel like winning and starting Will Levis can peacefully coexist.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I thought it was pretty telling when he mentioned that today. And how many more games? That's kind of, to me, the question. How many more games do you go if indeed Will Levis continues to struggle? How can you keep kind of rolling Will Levis out there if he continues to perform like that? And maybe I think what Brian Callahan is concentrating on. There's a couple of things. Maybe one is the potential. He talked about that today. There's still in his mind a lot of potential that has been unlocked, and we saw more of that last year. With Will Levis as a rookie, we saw the strong arm, we saw some more explosive plays. All that's kind of dropped off this year, so it's kind of a mystery as to what is necessary to bring that back. But I think Brian Callahan wants to see if he can find that potential, and I think too, there might be a sense also that Brian Callahan probably has to feel a little bit like, hey, am I part of the problem also? Will Levis did, decent, solid, good job as a rookie last year. And, Brian Callahan comes in not only as the new head coach, obviously, but as the play caller, as the team's play caller, and brings in a new system and wants to change some things about Will Levis, wants to increase his completion percentage, etc. Well, things don't seem to be going well in that regard. So, if you're Brian Callahan and he seems to be a very accountable guy, I'm sure he's got to be looking in the mirror a little bit too and saying, what can I do to bring back a little bit more of the Will Levis potential that we saw last year and a little bit less of the mistake-prone play that we've seen from Will Levis this season.
Calvin Ridley didn't seem very happy after the game yesterday.
I think that's fair.
How do you get that addressed?
That's a fair question. When you sign a guy for 4 years at $92 million, there's a level certainly of expectations that go with it. And 2 catches over the past 3 games for 14 yards and 0 catches yesterday is not getting it done.
And that's not his fault.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's. I think it's a combination. I really do. There were some. If you're analytics guy at all, that you look at next gen stats, has tracks the wide receiver separation, right? When in terms of how far separation a wide receiver has when a pass is either completed or incomplete. And Calvin Ridley was at 1.4 yards yesterday, which is about half of what the league average for separation is, and the lowest of all the Titans wide receivers. So maybe there's some blame on Calvin Ridley. 2 of the passes to Ridley yesterday, 2 of the 8 targets were batted away well before they got there. And I thought one of the catches or one of the passes Ridley could have come down with. He was in traffic a little bit, but I thought he should have caught. But there does seem to be a clear disconnect between Will Levis and Calvin Ridley. And it was talked about often in training camp. We saw things that just didn't seem to be clicking, and the sense was always, okay, just give it a little more time, give them some more rips and everything will come together. And it just hasn't happened. And I don't know whether that's Will Levis being just much more comfortable with DeAndre Hopkins. I'm uncertain exactly what it is, but Calvin Ridley was understandably upset. Said I'd like to get some more targets early on, kind of get me in the game a little bit. He was only targeted twice in the first half, and then more frequently in the second half. But it's just not coming together. Yesterday was one. Calvin Ridley's played 71 games in the NFL. He's only gone without a catch 3 times. That was one of the others was his first game in the NFL. So that kind of tells you where things are right now. But clearly, again, you hate to go back to the money thing, but it's a factor when you pay a guy that much money. He has to be a big part of your offense. It would be one thing if the Titans were scoring 30 points and Calvin Ridley wasn't catching any passes. But the fact is, the Titans are doing all they can to get to 20 points. Doesn't happen very often. And so naturally, what's going on with the Levis-Ridley connection comes up.
John, I'm also curious. A lot of chatter amongst the Titans fans, but even, experts and analytics folks. What do we make of the 4th down decision from Brian Callahan yesterday? If you look at the metrics, if you will, it seems like that was a real tough decision to punt right there before the 2-minute warning.
Yeah, I agree. I in my armchair high above the Titan Stadium in the press box, I did feel like he should have gone for it, and I did mention it at the time, so it wasn't post 4th down. But I guess what Brian Callahan was sort of thinking, he did have the 2-minute warning coming up. He did have 2 timeouts, and the last 2 drives the Colts had, the Titans had forced 3 and outs. So he figures the defense is playing pretty well, that he's still going to get the ball back. But to me, I don't know. To me, I think I would have gone, because to me, the worst, if you don't get it, maybe you can, if you feel strongly about your defense, maybe your defense still holds them to a field goal. And granted, now you need a touchdown and instead of just a field goal. But I think it's worth taking that chance when you're 1-3 and in danger of dropping to 1-4. Maybe take a little bit more risk. I think, why not?
Yeah, John, it feels like this game was a particularly tough one to let get away when you consider the fact that the Colts, a division rival, are playing with their number 2 quarterback. Now, their number 2 quarterback may be better than their number 1 quarterback, may give them a better chance to win, but they're also playing without their number 1 running back in Jonathan Taylor. So you avoided the starting quarterback and one of the top running backs in the league, and you can't get a division win at home. Does that make this one particularly galling?
I would think so. To me, I thought it was a real missed opportunity for the Titans. It was a chance to kind of get a second win in a row, to win at home for the first time, to start out on the right foot in the division. A lot of opportunity. And you mentioned the Colts injury issues on offense. They had their share on defense too. Their defensive line is pretty thin. and their pass defense had been pretty shaky. The week before, Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence had thrown for about 380 yards against the Colts. So, there seemed to be an opportunity, as I say, a real opportunity. You win this game, and for what it's worth, you're in second place in the AFC South, and you're still only a couple of losses behind Houston in the division. Now you lose that game. You're starting off on the wrong foot. You're in third place in the division, and oh boy, look at the schedule. You've got at Buffalo coming up, and you've got at Detroit coming up after that. So you've got a couple of real challenges on your hands as you try to turn things around again.
Yeah, and I guess that leads to the question is, will this reach a tipping point in your mind, whether it's with a quarterback situation or just a philosophy change overall? Because you don't want to be super negative, but right now those look like two hard losses in a row.
Really does. And that as we talked about earlier, I mean, I think that is the biggest question right now is the quarterback situation. And I get wanting to take that full look of Levis because you invested a lot in him, and he was a draft pick of this general manager, Rand Carthen. So it makes sense. On the other hand, if he's not giving you really any signs for optimism, it's hard to put him out there time after time and say your number one priority is winning. We have just seen Will Levis, and it's not only the turnovers either. It's as I talked about earlier. You look at the last 4 series on offense for the Titans against the Colts, and this is not including the last play, but the last 4 series, Will Levis was 1 for 8 for 8 yards and 1 interception. And I'm not saying it's all on his fault. That included the Ridley ball that I thought should have been caught, and it also included a PI that was not called. I thought on the defender guarding DeAndre Hopkins. But still, the fact of the matter is, the Titans gained 29 yards on those 4 series, and he's just not moving the team on any kind of a regular basis. And at some point, the negatives, maybe just become too much to continue to roll them out there. And maybe it's a situation where you only say, we're going to put Mason Rudolph in there this game. Maybe it's time for Will Levis to sit back, take a look at things again, and we're planning on bringing him back. You don't see that often, but maybe it's that kind of a decision. But if your priority is number one winning, it's harder and harder to justify Will Levis being in there if he doesn't give you any signs of encouragement or optimism.
There you have it. John Glennon. You can find him at Glennon Sports on Twitter or on X, however you care to refer to it. He writes for the Nashville Post, and he's kind enough to join us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. John, we appreciate it, and have fun.
Okay, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
All right, Ben. Hey, when we come back here on Main Street Sports today, it's the final segment of the Monday Mirror. It is the grab bag. We will look back at the weekend and look ahead at what's coming up here in the next bit. So stay tuned when we come back to the Lee Company Studios after this.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
It's the final segment of the Monday Mirror here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We are in the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and it is time for the grab bag. As we mentioned in the last segment, the Titans take on Buffalo. They travel to Buffalo Sunday. Buffalo will be on a short week because the Bills are playing in East Rutherford, New Jersey in about 3.5 hours, taking on the New York Jets. And who we got there?
I got the Knoxville native himself, Mr. Pennington.
Chad Pennington. There you go.
Yes, sir. Legend. Although he stuck the knife in me for 3 seasons with the Dolphins. I love Chad.
The pride of Marshall, Chad Pennington. Yeah. The Jets will be making their debut under Jeff Ulbrich, their interim coach, after the dismissal of Robert Saleh. I'm not pronouncing that right, Wade. How do you pronounce Saleh? Thank you. I knew it wasn't right, but I didn't know what was. That game kicks off again at 7:15. You can see it on both ABC and ESPN. Was Buffalo on a bye last week?
The Bills,
because it seems like the last we saw of them was they were getting.
They lost to the Texans. It was
they lost to the Texans after they lost
the Diggs game.
Okay, so they lost to the Texans. They lost to Baltimore the week before that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So again, the Jets are in a position to, possibly pick up some ground in the AFC East here tonight.
Yeah, I think it'll be a pretty fun game. This is a rematch, of week 1 last year. Everybody remembers the Aaron Rodgers injury, but a lot of folks forget that the Jets win that game on a punt return in overtime and kind of miraculously pulled out the dub when it looked like it was all but lost there with Rodgers sidelined. So Buffalo got a little sour taste in their mouth, but it'll be a fun one tonight. Hoping that the Jets offense, Ulbrich, I feel very confident with the defense. He's done a great job. Saleh obviously did a great job with the defense too, but hopefully they seem to really like that guy. I don't know if he's, long for the job in terms of the permanent status, but a fiery individual that could get everybody fired up. This will be a fun game, I think, tonight on Monday Night Football.
As a Jets fan, Wade, how intently will you be paying attention to the offense now that offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett is not your play caller, which again is odd to me? You're the offensive coordinator, but you're not calling the plays because Todd Downing is.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I'm not super optimistic. And the funny thing is, the Jets already have been through this with the Hackett family when Paul Hackett, the longtime coach and father of Nathaniel, he was their offensive coordinator. And they had some good success right around the Chad Pennington era with Hackett there. But good Paul then is not the same as what Nathaniel's doing here. I'm not overly optimistic about Downing. I'm really kind of just banking on the fact it felt like Saleh and Rodgers had kind of gone sour. And we know that Rodgers is kind of an egomaniac and loves, and we've seen it with veterans, obviously with Brady and with Manning and Breeze. These older quarterbacks want complete control at the line of scrimmage, and it seemed like that Saleh and him kind of riffed over that. So maybe if you're the offense, if you're Downing, your best offense is, hey, we'll call a play, and if Rodgers wants to audible, let him audible and just see what happens. I'm not overly optimistic. Buffalo's got a decent defense, but I think they will be better. It'd be nice to get Breece Hall going finally. He hadn't scored in a couple weeks.
Detroit 47, Dallas 9 in Jerry's world.
On his birthday.
On Jerry's birthday.
Ruined his birthday.
Among other things. How bad is Dallas?
They're not that bad. I mean, they are 3-3.
Yeah, they're 3-3, but my goodness, I mean, how do you get housed like that at home?
it feels like the game just kind of got away from them. And once the wheels started falling off the wagon, they definitely fell off the wagon. And I mean, I view that Dallas they're not great. They're, they'll get in the playoffs and they'll probably bow out pretty early, which has been par for the course the last several seasons. Dak gives them a good enough chance to be competitive in that division, which the Commanders lead, by the way, now. And so I don't put a ton of stock in Dallas being that bad, but I do love, and speaking of the Jets and head coaching, Ben Johnson was once upon a time a Titans top wish list candidate. He stays in Detroit. He's got them rolling now, one of the top offenses in the league, certainly cashing in yesterday. And I view that more as, man, Detroit, when they're playing at their best, they are a wagon. And Dallas is kind of about what I expected. They're kind of just middle of the road, which none of that fan base wants to hear, but I feel like they're just kind of an average team.
Man, they're spending a lot of money to be average.
There's no doubt. I mean, so that's the interesting thing, right, too. You paid Dak, made him the highest player in the history of the game, and you're kind of in a spot where if this current configuration doesn't work out, you're really kind of hamstrung on where you go going forward. But, there weren't a lot of folks losing a ton of sleep. There were some mustache twirls going on when a lot of the country was watching that game yesterday. It's always fun to see Jerry squirm a little bit. Here's one for you too. The NFC North, biggest division in football. 5-0 Vikings, 4-1 Lions, and the Bears and Packers both at 4-2. Heard a stat today that it's the most combined wins, I think, or the first time since they have gone to the current division format, which is like 2000 or 2002. The first time that teams have all had 4 wins in the division by week 6. So I'm giving way more stock on the Lions being good than I am on the Cowboys being bad, because I thought the Cowboys were pretty ho-hum to begin with.
Well, now the Bears and the Packers have each played the local NFL franchise, which has helped them boost that total. So
and they got to play the other worst team in the NFL, the Jaguars. The Bears did yesterday.
So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah. The Bears are the team, I think, that obviously will be left out. I don't think we're talking about a situation where they all, are vying for playoff berths. I think the Bears will come falling back to earth. But the Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings are still undefeated, which is crazy.
Yeah. Sam Darnold, already getting some comeback player of the year buzz going. So that'll be worth keeping.
And he's getting fringe MVP buzz going at this current moment, which is wild to think about.
It really is when you consider his career arc. Didn't mean to hit any nerves there, Wade.
He saw ghosts. He saw ghosts on primetime before, so yeah, he knows. But it's one of those things. He won't win MVP if for nothing else. If it's close, I just don't know that voters will give him that nod over somebody like Lamar Jackson or Mahomes. Mahomes is kind of playing on a semi MVP pace, but Jackson certainly is. I don't know that he would win that, but I mean, they just continue to win games. They play the Lions at home next week. That is going to be an absolute slobber knocker.
Oh goodness, yeah, that one's going to be fun. The Liberty took control early in game 2 against the Lynx and never really let go, winning that one 80-66 and getting a split on their home court before they go to Minnesota on Wednesday for game 3. But Nia Laney Hamilton, 20 points to go with 21 points from Stewie. Those were 2 of 4 double-digit scores for the Liberty in that big win. So, looking forward to this thing going back again to Minnesota for game 3 on Wednesday night and to see if the Lynx can step up at home. Nafisa Collier, 16 points, 8 boards for the Lynx in the loss. Courtney Williams, 15 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists. And I'm going to tell you, In the attention that I've been paying to the WNBA here over the last bit, she has really kind of been a breakout player in my eyes. I won't call her a wagon, but she's a load, man, and she doesn't mind taking the tough shots at tough times for the Lynx. Collier on the floor or not. I mean, I think she's going to make them something to be reckoned with over the rest of this series.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing, man, tragic scheduling. This is the second weekend in a row. There's been some big playoff games, smack dab in the middle of NFL Sunday.
Right.
But they'll get the stage to themselves on Wednesday night, 7 p.m. on ESPN. This will be, it's not a series until a road team wins a game. We've already seen that. We'll see now if the Liberty can maybe steal one and put the pressure back on the Lynx for a potential closeout game on Friday.
The WNBA announced late last week that their championship series is going from 5 games to 7 as well, which I think is kind of a strike while the iron is hot kind of move for the league with all the attention that's being paid to it. Let's up the ante a little bit. So I think that's a great move for them.
I think so too. And strike while the iron's hot, but also I think the league competitively, they feel in a this is pure speculation, but it feels like they're in a competitive enough league now where you can realistically put that 7-game series out there and expect a competitive series. Early in the process or early in that league, it's kind of like months ago we talked about tennis potentially dropping to or advancing to 3 sets on the women's side, and I mentioned there would be a lot of really ugly early matchups or matches. I think it's kind of the same vibe there. I think the league feels that, if the Lynx and the Liberty meet up, or whether it's the Sun and the Aces meet up, a 7-game series is kind of worthy. And it just kind of solidifies what that league is building toward.
Yeah. The WNBA's expansion team, the Golden State Valkyries, announced a coach late last week, Natalie Nakase, who comes off of the Las Vegas Aces bench. She's been Becky Hannon's first assistant for the past 3 years, was a part of those back-to-back league championship teams in 22 and 23, had previously worked with the Clippers, worked with Tyronn Lue with them. A walk-on at UCLA from 98 to 2003, played her way into the starting lineup and served as team captain for 3 years. So she started at the bottom and now she's here. Big move. This is I'm fascinated by the fact that they're bringing in one expansion team next year. That's going to put them at 13. So they're going to play with an odd number. It's kind of bizarre to me. But at any rate, they've got their coach.
Saw Alicia Clark giving her a shout out on social, so I'll trust Alicia, and good fit, and obviously done some great things in Las Vegas, and now potentially with that new franchise.
Yeah. Preds fell to 0-2 over the weekend, lost 3-0 at Detroit. Kyle Larson won at Charlotte. The final 8 is set, and we'll save this other one for tomorrow. Anyway, that's going to do it for the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Again, that's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We are coming to you from the Lee Company studios, and we will be back with you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So be sure and join us. We'll see you then.